This is OwlUp, where learning happens in minutes, not hours. For a deeper journey, explore all our courses at owlup.co. Now, let's dive in. Chapter 1 of Grief and Loss, Finding Your Way Through, Understanding Grief, the Basics. In this chapter, you'll learn: identify the basic definition of grief. Let's dive in! Grief isn't just about death, and it doesn't move in neat stages. One day you're grocery shopping, the next, a song in aisle 3 drops you to your knees. In this episode, we'll explore why grief behaves this way and what normal really means when your world has cracked. About 7 to 10% of people don't just hurt, they stay intensely stuck for years, even as everyone else expects them to be better. That gap between outer expectations and inner reality is where a lot of unnecessary suffering lives. In this episode, we'll zoom out from any single loss and look at what shapes your response: your nervous system, your family's unspoken rules, the stories your culture tells about strength, even how safe you felt before everything changed. Two people can lose the same person on the same day and walk away with very different invisible wounds. We'll also look at why your body joins the conversation through sleep, appetite, and energy, and how cultural rituals can act like scaffolding when everything feels structurally unsound. The goal isn't to fix your feelings, but to give you a clearer map of what may already be happening inside you. Grief also has its own internal clock, and it rarely syncs with work schedules, school terms, or social timelines. Research shows intensity often softens within a year, yet sharp spikes can surface years later, around anniversaries, certain smells, or a random street that holds a shared memory. Some people cry daily and function well. Others barely cry and feel shattered inside. These patterns aren't moral scores. They're more like personal dialects of the same language. The task isn't to speed them up or slow them down, but to notice how yours tends to speak, so you can respond with a bit more precision instead of self-judgment. Some researchers describe grief as work, but not in the productivity sense. It's closer to rehabilitation after an injury. Your mind keeps trying to understand, what is my life now without what I lost? That question doesn't get answered once. It gets revisited as your roles, relationships, and even identity shift. One powerful finding: people don't simply sever ties with what's gone. Many form what psychologists call continuing bonds. A widower might still talk to his spouse when making big decisions. A parent whose baby died might light a candle every birthday. These aren't signs of denial. For many, they're part of a healthy adaptation. The task gradually changes from holding on to the way things were to weaving the loss into the story of who you are becoming. Those stories are heavily shaped by context. In communities where grief is shared, loud mourning, open tears, repeated storytelling, people often feel less isolated, even if the pain is intense. In places where the message is, keep it together, many end up doing their grieving in secret, which can make symptoms like numbness, irritability, or exhaustion feel like personal failure instead of a predictable response. Biology stays in the mix too. When sleep is disrupted, something that happens to most freshly bereaved people, your brain struggles more with memory and emotion regulation. You might notice looping thoughts, sharper anxiety, or a sense that you're losing it when you're actually sleep-deprived and overloaded. Gentle routines, light exposure in the morning, and limiting late-night scrolling don't fix grief, but they can make the emotional load slightly more carryable. Losses that come with shock, violence, or a sense of preventability often layer on moral and existential questions. Why them? Why didn't I stop it? What does this say about the world? These aren't just abstract. How you answer them can tilt you toward bitterness, resignation, or, sometimes, new forms of meaning or purpose. Think of it a bit like a long season in a sport. The same team, but the lineup, strategy, and even rules you play by keep evolving. Grief is less a one-time event and more an ongoing negotiation between who you were, what happened, and who you're allowed and supported to become next. A neurologist once described early grief as a brain trying to run on a shattered operating system. Daily tasks can feel strangely effortful. You reread emails, forget why you opened a drawer, or lose track of conversations mid-sentence. That isn't weakness. It's your attention being pulled toward relearning a world that no longer matches your internal layout. Consider how differently two coworkers might respond after the same kind of loss. One throws themselves into projects, staying late, volunteering for extra shifts. The other quietly drops to part-time, spending afternoons walking or staring out windows. On the surface, one looks resilient, and the other struggling. Yet both may be doing versions of the same thing, testing how much life they can tolerate at once. In some art schools, students are taught to step back from the canvas every few minutes so they don't get lost in a single brushstroke. In a similar way, tiny breaks, stepping outside, unclenching your jaw, letting yourself cry in the car, can act as those steps back, helping you see that today's moment is not the whole picture, just one part of a much larger painting still in progress. Some clues about the future of grief care are already here. Text-based support and teletherapy shrink distance, but also mean your most vulnerable words may live on a server you'll never see. VR memorials and AI afterlife avatars could feel like visiting a quiet gallery where the paintings answer back. Moving for some, disorienting for others. As workplaces go global, policies may need to bend around many grief clocks instead of assuming one script fits every loss. Instead of asking, "Am I doing this right?" it may help to ask, "What kind of support fits today?" Some days you might need solitude, other days a group chat, a song on repeat, or a long drive with no destination. Your challenge this week: notice which tiny choices leave you feeling even 5% more steady, and treat those as trail markers for the path ahead. This was OwlUp, your daily step forward. To keep learning with structured courses and more insights, go to owlup.co. Until tomorrow!